Morning.
Good morning, bro.
How are you, Melps?
Hey, how are you?
Do I understand that you watched the entire first season of The Pit in like one weekend?
Two nights. I was
Two
working
nights.
on a work thing, and I have to have
Oh
something else.
yeah, that's right. You love to do it while you were doing your slides.
Yeah, I listen. I watch something I've already seen a million times, but
Hmm.
so this probably wasn't the most efficient thing.
Yeah.
Although now I sort of feel like I OD'd on it, and it's funny because my friends, my friend Peter said it was too triggering for him.
Sure, I can see that.
And there's the flashbacks to COVID.
Oh yeah, yeah, I know. I just saw one episode, but yeah, it's good.
Yeah, it's Yeah, I woke up feeling like something bad had happened.
Shit.
And where I really opened my eyes, I was like, wait, and I sorted through things. I was like, no, everything's fine. I mean, work is it's super busy and sometimes annoying, but I was like, oh, I think it's because I watched that show, that really disturbing,
Sure.
And then I looked at the news right before I went to bed, which is a big no-no.
Right. That's a recipe for not sleeping well. Hey, Treebs. All right. Well, looks like we
Hi,
got.
sorry, it takes me a
That's
while to
okay.
get the unmute on.
How are you, honey? How's it going over there?
I'm all right.
Haven't
How
talked
are
to you in
you?
forever. I'm good. I'm good. I'm just, gonna be eating more hazelnuts for a while
Why hazelnuts?
because that's what I bought 25 pounds of them. Um,
Oh,
and I bagged them up in my fridge. I mean,
oh my
I was trying to
God.
send, I was trying to send a picture of it, but I couldn't get a good picture last night when we were chatting. But yeah.
I
I've
got,
got a fridge full of eggs and I just went and got French wine and Campari at the
Oh
store.
yeah, there we go. That's the spirit.
geez,
Prepare, lay it in, man.
swine wine,
Yep.
Trader Joe's.
Yep.
Okay.
Might be a long siege
Oh my God.
I know.
till things get back to normal. Ah,
Jesus.
yeah, it's gnarly. Okay, I'm gonna get started in a minute. I can see that Martha and Paul are in. Um, okay. So this is March 15th. I know what day it is. And we're doing While the Robot Sleeps, which is a it's a version of this is basically this month is a basically sort of a version of the book that was trying to write a couple of years ago about this whole practice. And I did one take of it that was super paranoid because I was like, and I wrote it and it was all about, getting out from under the terrifying surveillance glare of the robot and stuff. And then I read it and I was like, this sounds paranoid. Why am I writing this crazy stuff? I don't want to be on the bookshelf next to a bunch of, 9/11 was an inside job books. I don't want to be invited by some like QAnon people to come talk on their shows and then be tempted to sell lots of copies of my insane book. And then this past month happened, and I'm like, well, maybe I should dust off some of those concepts. So here we are. Um, so just to recap for people who maybe weren't here, The Riches of Active Solitude. I figured we'd start on a happy, positive note. So the first Saturday, we kind of recapped some of the things that active solitude gives you, and just paying attention to your life in general gives you. And then last week, I talked a little bit about I talked some about problems with surveillance, and if anybody has any thoughts about what that was like for them, if that was informative or useful, or maybe covered things in a way they already knew, I don't know. I would love to hear. Anybody has any thoughts about last week? Okay.
So
Oh, go ahead.
I was driving last week. Would you send the recording out of it?
Yes. In fact, I don't know if you noticed, I've started posting the recordings of classes on Substack. So I think last week's already up.
Okay, thank you.
And I can drop the link into the chat. Um, yeah. Okay. So this week is unplugging the robot. So all right. Well, all this talk about surveillance and stuff. What's the idea behind unplugging the robot? So I tried to make this not, so much about like Here's how to take your phone and turn off all the notifications, which I think you should do. If you have a smartphone, the first thing you should do after this class is go to the preferences tab or whatever it is. If you're Android, it's preferences. If you're Apple, I don't know what it is, but turn off all the notifications on all the applications you have. You probably already do some of this, but whenever you install a new application, it turns by default all the notifications on. So then the first time you get a new, I don't know, menu app or something, you hear all these bleeps and you're like, why is this bothering me? And then you realize, oh yeah, by default, it wants to annoy you. Hey, we got a new version. Hey, we're about to put out a new version. Hey, we want to sell you something. So I don't know if everybody else has notifications on their phone or if they figured out a way to turn them off, but that is a big thing. But I figured that was something that maybe people already knew a lot about. So I wanted to just talk for a minute about the principles behind why unplug. And so here's what I'm going to say. All the devices that steal your solitude now, either in huge stretches or tiny bites, are hooked up to a giant rules engine I refer to as the robot. And I have some knowledge of this because I've worked over the years for several of the companies that are building the robots, and I've the sort of what amounts to the robot in aggregate, and I've documented a lot of how their stuff works. So I'm not really making this up. Every single interaction you have with it amounts to a contest between your ability to get what you want without giving the robot what it wants. The simplest way to unplug is to just think about how they all use electricity. So you just cut off the electricity and that's pretty much it. And I will say that for Christmas, when I was working for PayPal, my boss one time, the Christmas present she sent must have been all the managers under her. She sent me one of those Amazon, hockey pucks that like listens to you and you're supposed to talk to. And I unwrapped it. I thought it was, oh, this is a kind of a dense box. I bet it's chocolate. Gee, I wonder if it's weighted toward dark chocolate or weighted toward milk chocolate. And then I opened it up and I saw this godforsaken Alexa hockey puck that Amazon uses to spy on people. And I'm like, and I threw it across the room and then I smashed it to bits. It was very satisfying. Not quite as satisfying as maybe some C's chocolate, but anyway, you get the idea. But unplugging from the robot at home is pretty simple right now. Now in North Korea, you have to have a speaker in your house and it has to be turned up all the way. You can't turn it off, otherwise you'll get reported. That's bad. So right now, for us, so far we have the ability to turn stuff off and we should use it. I took a 1 week class at the Haas School of Business about 8 years ago now. And the first question they asked us was, why do companies produce products? It was a product management class, so it was a reasonable ask. And I thought, I mean, and so we heard lots of different possible answers. In other words, why would a company make a product? In other words, why would a business exist at all? To help humanity, to solve problems for people. And this, of course, the instructor's standing there just stone-faced looking at us, you pathetic. Advance our nation's interests, alleviate suffering, to learn and grow. These are all suggestions that were thrown out. Probably one of them was by me. To create a legacy for future generations. That sounds good. To be remembered. Ah. And so the very simple answer to the question, why produce a product, came down to two words that I'd never seen together before: wealth capture. And so that was kind of sobering to me because all that feel good corporate propaganda I'd been hearing at PayPal about, hey, making the world a better place, flew right out the window at that moment. And I'm like, oh, okay, I guess we're at the business school here. This is where people actually say what they and the question I had was, well, do you think the goal of a business this is an internal question I asked myself, is the goal of business to capture wealth for you, or is it to capture wealth from you? Okay, so I don't have to answer that. Um, if this business uses technology, which is an ever advancing set of practices, processes, inventions, patents, tactics, and teams of highly motivated, highly skilled people to do their wealth capturing, how likely is it that you, with your Neolithic ability to discern patterns and avoid risks could win even one round? And the answer is it's not very likely. You might get what you need. You might get directions to the store, but you're not going to prevent yourself from giving away the stuff that the robot wants because you're bringing a pillow to a drone war. So I never watched this show, but it does have the right title. Um, when you spend a few minutes deliberately in your own company, unplugged and out of the reach of the robot, you can devote your energy to solving the real problems. I'm going to not talk as long as I did in the past session. I promise. We'll get to some cool stuff. You can devote your energy to solving the real problems, the ones only you can solve. That means that without the robot, you are the boss. But there is one problem before you get to the real problems, and that is substitution. The fancy word that um, the author of this book, Thinking Fast and Slow, uses is intuitive heuristics, which I like that word. I like juicy words like that, but really it's substitution. Um, Faced with a difficult question, we often answer an easier one instead. Right? I can't afford my bills and I haven't been promoted in 3 years. And therefore, my neighbor is from a different country. And therefore, we should probably restrict immigration because I don't want to learn a new programming language because that sounds hard. Right? I mean, that's the simplest, one of the simplest ones I can pull out of my ear. But, there are lots of great examples of this. And you may write down a few difficult questions you are dealing with, and then tinker with like a list of other questions that may be faster and easier to entertain. And if you can catch yourself doing this substitution, it's really an interesting, exercise, and it can be kind of awful, but it's cool. It's like chewing your food more than you usually do. Like, oh my God, this is annoying, but it's kind of awesome. So, I've seen people put signs on the refrigerator that said, "You are not hungry, you are bored." That's a perfect example of substitution. Like I'm looking at this spreadsheet. I have not filled out the spreadsheet. I have not figured out how to do the scripting to drop this spreadsheet into a different format and insert it into some program. But I haven't checked my text in a while. You know, there's something I haven't done that might need doing. Like I need to stand up and walk around for a minute. Yeah. So this substitution happens in a bunch of different places, and while you're thinking fast, while you're connected to the robot, as it were, when you're interacting with a device or when you're consuming media sort of passively, you are definitely in the mode where it makes it likely for you to not solve the real problem and actually solve the easy problem, the fast problem. So I don't know if this resonates for anybody. I guess it's just super obvious, but what real problems would I be talking about? Well, I because I've had some time by myself over the past couple of years, because nobody lets me out of my house, um, I I've had a chance to think about what are the problems? How do they, you could make a really long list of all the problems, but I'm actually think that I guess I made categories. Maybe I didn't, maybe I dodged the issue. Maybe I didn't make a list of problems. Maybe I just made a list of categories, but I came down to three. And here are the ones I say um, that you can work on. And I think you can only really work on three problems or have three real problems. And I'm saying that one of them is a bad problem to have. If you don't work on it every day, it's a bad problem to have. And then there are two good ones. Maybe a good means, in this sense, morally neutral, right? So now I'm going to quote a dear friend of my family's. This is my borrowed father, Herbert. He said this to me about a year and a half ago when I was visiting him in Champaign-Urbana. He said, "I don't know what I want because I don't know who I am." That's the kind of shit he said. He was awesome. But it was also true because he had had a couple strokes, so he was not fooling. And so I call this the bad problem because if you don't get used to working on this one, and you can't solve it all at once, obviously, everybody wants an epiphany where they go, I understand who I am and what I want. Awesome. But, that's a mythology, I believe. I think the epiphany is way overrated. The epiphany is a sudden realization of all the things you need to know about that's clarity, right? And we all want that. Oh gosh, I want to just change one, like if I accept one supernatural belief, poof, my deal that with myself is then I'll get an epiphany and then I can go on with my life and I'll be right about everything, and I'll have the right motivations and I'll do the right stuff. But that has not worked for me. And I tried, I promise, I tried several times. So if you get used to working on this one, then and you can't solve it all at once, but I say you generally can't solve it all at once, but your solutions you come up with on the other two that I'm going to talk about will be better, will get you closer to what you want. And I want to suggest that if you start your day by looking at your phone, then you're kind of going to the robot for help with this one. Who am I and what do I want? Because and a lot of this is tacit, it's implicit. You're getting stuff, you're getting messages that are tuned directly to your zip code, to things you've based on two things you've clicked on based on demographic stuff. And so you're already, even if you just see a, a news alert on your phone or an email or whatever, you are already going to the robot for help with who are you and what should you do. And so this, I call this the bad problem, but it is definitely one that we work on in active solitude. And another way to say that is I took up the practice of yoga many years ago when I moved to, well, it was right around 2000, right around 2001, right after September 11th. I was stuck in this town on a business trip and I wound up moving there. But um, I was riding my bike around looking for a place to lift weights, and I saw this little Quonset, so a brick building, and I looked in, and people seemed to be exercising, and I went in there and stood at the top of, got a mat, and stood in, paid my $15 or whatever, and stood there and was like, okay, I want to learn how to do physical yoga because these are a bunch of jocks. Like Boulder was full of people who had been Olympic climbers and Olympic skiers and Olympic swimmers who had injured themselves by working too hard, and they had broken something, and then they came to yoga to kind of continue to work really hard, but also maybe not destroy their shoulder or their knee or whatever. And what I found out was that the teacher I had, who was really great, Richard Freeman, was actually using yoga as a metaphor to answer the question, who are you? Which sounds kind of flaky and fruity, but that's kind of what it was. And if I was not paying attention to that, and I did not actually even, I was kind of like, no, 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 no. When we did the chants, I'm like, man, whatever, I don't care. But that's kind of the payout that I've got from that all those years of trashing my shoulder, like doing all these vinyasas. I found out that that's what I was doing, and um, they use the body, the physical body, as a spiritual workshop to work things out. That's what they do. And that's kind of what we're doing here in when we do the breath work and we do the journaling. We're doing the same thing. It's just we're not um, jumping up and down on the mat and stuff. We're not getting sweaty. And we're not doing partner yoga, for God's sake. Okay, so that's the bad problem. Enough. Let's go on to the two good problems. These problems are ones that everybody kind of has when they go to try to accomplish something. In my days in Chicago, I used to hang around with a lot of 12-steppers and a lot of folks who'd come up in the Black Baptist vibe, and they used to say, "You're either going to get a lesson or a blessing." And you're either going to get, in other words, you're going to get what you want, which means you won't learn anything, or you're going to get not what you want, and you're going to hopefully have a moment to reflect, like, why did I not get what I wanted? So, why is that? Because every time you try to accomplish something and you get a lesson, these lessons can give you information on these two problems these problem categories. Okay, I'm admitting they're problem categories, not really problems. I don't know how the world works, and I can't predict the future. And so what I'm saying is that failing and then listening can teach you way more than succeeding, right? And that's, again, super obvious. If you've worked on, even for a few minutes, on the bad problem without the robot's help, you can use the robot later to help you with these ones. How does the world work? Go hit the Wikipedia. Is it okay to feed cows a bunch of alfalfa every day? Look at the Wikipedia, for crying out loud. Or, and predicting the future. Nobody can predict the future. Remember when everyone was quoting Nostradamus 20 years ago, 30 years ago? I don't know why that was. People were just thought that was so great. But we can get a little better at or we can get a little less horrible at predicting the future, right? And we can also maybe let go of our fear about the fact that we don't know how the world works and we can't predict the future. And maybe when we hang out with ourselves a little bit and do a little meditation, a little breathing, we can get less phobic about the fact that we don't have these two nailed. And we're kind of in a situation where we're making incremental progress on them. This little shrine here is from Mount Tabor, this little park in Portland. And this is the kind of stuff you run into in Portland once in a while, where someone's just converted a weird little pedestal into some kind of shrine that they're doing tarot readings, and they put an offering of a little packet of tea. I mean, what is going on here? I love it. And there's a glove up top. I don't know what is going on here, but it's very much something you would see in the middle of a city in India. There would just be a random shrine to something, right at a street corner next to a stoplight. Um, so I like these two good problems, and I feel I feel like they are morally neutral. It's not your fault that you don't know how the world works. Of course you don't. And it's not your fault you can't predict the future. The problem is that we think we have to, and we get all anxious about the fact that we're supposed to, and also we get really worried about trying to predict the future. And it's terrible. Now it's time for people to write. So we're going to start now, and we'll go for 10 minutes, and I'm going to give you prompts, and you can answer any one of those, or you can put each one of them at the top of the page and do them separately. Okay, let's go. I'll read them out loud too, in case people want to do that. So the first prompt is, you can put this at the top of one page. What will happen in 1 hour? Write a whole page on that. Who knows? Maybe you'll find something out. And then the next one is, what will happen first thing tomorrow morning? And then what will happen in 3 weeks? Okay, go. Okay, one more minute. Okay. We're going to switch up the order a little bit. We're going to do breath work now. And I just want to remind folks that breathing is not thinking. So if you're driving, you should pull over to the side of the road. But I'm pretty sure nobody's driving now, so that's good. Okay, first ones, we're going to do 30 breaths, and then we're going to do stress relieving breaths. And I'll give you some instruction on those. They're fun. I just learned them earlier this week. Okay, so let's get comfy, sit up straight, tuck your pelvis in, tuck your chin in a little bit, and just see if you can roll your shoulders back and lengthen your spine as much as you can. If you have to, you can put your hands down on the corner of your thighs and push up a little bit or push down on that, and it'll give you a little lift. And maybe don't stress it, but maybe that'll give you a little click. Strengthen, lengthen your spine and lengthen your neck. And I always go for lengthen the back of the neck so that the top of the head feels light. I'm going to count four, or excuse me, I'm going to count 10. Just nice slow breaths. Let's go in through the nose and out through the mouth. So in, 2, in, and blow out a candle. And in, 4, and out, 5. Just easy, no big deal. And 6, 7 in, and blow out. 8 in, and blow out. A little deeper now, in, and out. And last one this way, in, and out. Now we're just going to do 3 count breaths, nice and slow. In through the nose, out through the nose. In, 2, 3, out, 2, 3. 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 In deeply, 2, 3, out, 2, 3. A little slower. In, 2, 3, out, 2, 3. 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 Now we're going to do box. We're going to do 4 counts. So I'm going to go in, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4, let it go, push it out, 2, 3, 4, hold it, 2, 3, 4, in deeply, steady, 3, 4, and hold, and raise your pelvic floor, 3, hold your stomach in, 4, and let that go, push it out, 2, 3, 4, and hold, relaxed, 2, 3, 4, and bright and steady in, 2, 3, 4, pinch your shoulder blades together, hold, 2, 3, 4, and let it go, push it out, 2, through your nose, 3, 4, hold it out, 2, 3, 4, in, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4, push it out and release, 2, 3, 4, hold it out, 2, 3, 4, pull it in, 2, 3, 4, hold it up here, 2, 3, shoulder blades together, 4, let it go, push it out through your nose, 2, 3, 4, hold it, 2, 3, 4, and pull it in through your nose, 2, 3, 4, and hold it up there, 2, 3, 4, let it go, 2, 3, 4, leave it out, 2, 3, 4, suck it in through your nose, 2, brightly, 4, hold it up there, 2, 3, 4, let it go and see if you can do it steadily, 2, all the way out, 4, and hold it, 2, 3, 4. Suck it in through your nose, 2, 3, 4, hold it, 2, 3, 4, push it out steady, 2, 3, 4, hold it, 2, 3, 4, in through the nose as deep as you can, 3, 4, hold it up there, 2, 3, 4, and push it out, let it go, 2, 3, 4, and hold it out, 2, 3, 4. Last one this way, in deep as you can, 2, 3, 4, hold it, 2, 3, 4, push it out, 2, 3, 4, hold it out, 2, 3, 4. Now keep your eyes closed and breathe normally for a minute. In and out through your nose. Okay. So maybe you're a little more in your body, a little more relaxed, and you have your slow part of your mind is working maybe a little more alertly after journaling and doing a little breath work, and that's nice. Now we're going to do 5 stress relieving breaths. Take you a little further down. So basically, you can let your eyes flutter open. These are pretty active. So what you're going to do is you're going to raise your hands up when you breathe in and form a fist. And when you breathe out, suddenly pull them down to your thighs. I may not be far enough away for you to see this, but let me try it again. One more. In and out. Okay. In and out. I'm going to do 5 more. In and out. Nose in through the nose and out through the mouth. I'm going to do 3 more. In and out fast. In and out. In and out. Okay, sit still. Take it easy for a minute. Breathe normally. Relax. Sometimes it's nice to mix up the order that we do things in. Sometimes I feel like taking in an idea when you've slowed your mind down a little bit can be better. So now we're going to do a little copying. Ran across this poem that I hope you like. It's called Irises. So as I learned once after doing this wrong for 6 months, I'm going to read the whole thing through and then I'm going to go line by line kind of slowly. Irises by Lee Young Lee. And I just want to say from Czeslaw Milos's sort of editor's notes, he says Lee Young Lee is an immigrant from China, but he writes in English. Yet perhaps in his work there is a strong current of Asian poetry. And I also just want to say that Milos is great when he puts this collection together called A Book of Luminous Things, which I recommend. It's an international anthology of poetry. You'll okay, you can't see anything except for a big white fuzzy blurb, but yeah, a Book of Luminous Things. This anthology is great because his editor's notes, his notes on it, he'll include. I was leafing through it a couple days ago, and his notes on some of the poems are like super frank. Like, I don't really like this poem. I don't think it does the right thing, or it's kind of sentimental, and it's it's weird. Like his notes are funny because it's sort of like it would be like inviting people to your wedding that you really don't like, and then right before you take your vows, you're saying, "I see Bob there. You're still an asshole." I don't know. It's just great. I mean, you never see this in anthologies. I don't think I ever see this in anthologies where someone's like, I have real misgivings about this one, but I put it in anyway. Like, what? It's great. Anyway, this one is irises. Let me stop talking and start reading. In the night, in the wind, at the edge of rain, I find 5 irises and call them lovely. As if a woman once lay by them a while, then woke, rose, went. The memory of hair lingers on their sweet tongues. I'd like to tear these petals with my teeth. I'd like to investigate these hairy selves, their beauty and indifference. They hold their breath all their lives and open, open. We are not lovers, not brother and sister, though we drift hand in hand through a hall, thrilling and burning as thought and desire expire, and, over this dream of life, this life of sleep, we waken, dying, violet becoming blue, growing black, black, all that an iris ever prays when it prays to be. Okay, here we go. I think I'm just going to read the first stanza and the last stanza because I'm running out of time. So, in the night, in the wind, at the edge of rain, I find 5 irises and call them lovely. As if a woman once lay by them a while, then woke, rose, went. The memory of hair lingers on their sweet tongues. 2. We are not lovers, not brother and sister. Though we drift hand in hand through a hall, thrilling and burning as thought and desire expire. And over this dream of life, this life of sleep, we waken, dying, violet becoming blue, growing black, black. All that an iris ever prays when it prays to be. Okay. Hello, folks. I want to show something real quick here. I'm going to drag this over. See if this will show up here. Boom. Okay. If you go to activesolitude.substack.com, and I'll drop it in there, you should be seeing here. Drop this in. You should be seeing these posts. I think that's what I think I should. I think that's what we should see. I'm just going to make sure I can view site. Okay, this is what you should be seeing. Okay, here it is. So down at the bottom, there should be these. And so here's March 8th. So Paul, let me know if you can't see that or whatever. But those are the recorded classes from the past March 1st and March 8th. And I'm going to start putting the old ones on as well. That's one thing. The other thing is just hi. Anybody got any comments or questions about what we're doing in Robot Month, March Madness? Anybody have any thoughts or
I just have a technological question, I guess. When do you go and turn off all your notifications again? And how often and when?
well, when I get a new phone
Uh-huh.
or if my phone is bothering me, like if somebody says, "Hey, you should turn off all your notifications," I pick up my phone. Where is it? Can you see this? So I pick it up and I don't know if do you have an iPhone or an Android or what do you have, Martha?
I have an iPhone.
Okay, so I don't have an iPhone, but um, I will, if you'd like, I can send you a little. I'll find something online and it'll show you how to do it. Let me ask you this: does your phone click and beep and make a bunch of notifications that you don't like?
Oh, fairly often.
Paul's nodding. Yeah, and so I will find something and send it to you. Would you like that?
Yes. And I was also wondering though, how often you have to do that. That's what I missed when you were
I
telling.
see. Well, so sometimes like Apple will um, just put out a software update, and your phone will go to sleep and wake back up and say, "Hey, you've got a new blah blah blah, a new system." And a lot of times when the manufacturer does that, or when the software person does that, the software organization does that, they've reset things helpfully and turned back on some of the notifications. Have you noticed that? So sometimes you'll put one cat in a bag, and then you'll look back and you'll snuck that thing snuck out again. Does that make sense? So it's not your imagination. It's just drifting backward all the time. And then if you also get a new, hey, download the coupon app for your favorite vendor or something, then a lot of times that will some new application you have. Hey, track your steps that you're exercising or track, use this coupon app to get deals on new books or whatever. That thing will be like, you installed me, so I'm just going to take the liberty of putting in a bunch of reminders and noisemakers for you. Yeah. So I will find something on iPhone and turning off notifications and send it to you. If anybody, are there any Android peeps here? Okay, I see it. Oh my God, a mixed family.
Yeah,
That's very progressive of you. Um, it's amazing how far we've come. Yeah. So I will send you something on Android because at least I know that a little better. Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah. I took a class called Insane Productivity from this quack real estate salesman years ago, but he had one of his things was here's the first day one of Insane Productivity was here's how to turn off all the notifications on all your devices, your laptop, your phone, everything that makes noise that tries to go, hey, I'm going to grab you with it, grab the. So now when somebody texts me, I don't get a bleep, and I need to not have one because I am friends with people who are on different time zones. And so I've plenty of times gone to sleep and had it wake me up when it was just somebody going thumbs up. I don't need to be woken up by that, right? And I don't necessarily want my phone completely off, but sometimes that's the only way to do it. Yeah. Any other questions or comments or
Hey, Matt, I have a
yeah,
comment, but it's
yeah,
not about last week
that's okay.
specifically.
What?
I just wanted to say that, in the show Northern Exposure
Yeah.
and, Chris in the Morning,
Yeah, I haven't seen that show since the 90s, so I only
well,
think I saw it
he
once.
was it was John Corbett played Chris, and he was a ex-con,
Okay.
and he had a radio show in the morning, and he would talk about poetry or, the
Cool.
seasons, or, I mean, it's really a great part of the show anyway.
Awesome.
I've always wished that I had my own Chris in the Morning.
Hmm.
And so you're kind of like that for me.
I love that.
I just like hearing you talk and read poetry and stuff. Anyway, that's all I had to say.
Thank you, Tracy. That's really sweet. I love that.
Um, I'm with Teresa. That was excellent, sort of comparison. I just want to say, gorgeous poem,
You
gorgeous,
liked it?
gorgeous,
Good. Oh
gorgeous
God,
poem.
what a relief.
I was, and I kind of like skipping over the stanza so that we could kind of sit with the parts that we sat with. And I like the structure today. Um,
Ooh, thank you.
I've been making screenshots of the poems, and I'm actually
Mm,
thinking of like kind of compiling them into my own like unofficial sort of Matt Brandenburg approved poems. I
I love
will
it.
even include the cursed, the one that
The one
was
that everyone hated.
so it I it's almost like if you've ever had a party where you burned the dinner and everything went wrong and things exploded and the lights went out.
Yeah,
That's the one you still talk about.
it's
Like
true.
that's the thing that stays with you. And I will say for me, I try to pretend like, oh, that was such a good experience. Um, in the moment, it
I saw
was
you.
a
I
very
saw you.
like, what? Like, what? Like, who writes a poem like this? And it was fabulous
Yeah,
and awful. And anyway, it's a
yeah.
little bit like when there's a catastrophe, but it becomes magical.
Thank you. That's so great. I'll never forget that moment when I was trying to read that poem and I kept seeing people standing up and walking around and opening their notebooks and go like it was a crisis. And of course, when I got to, and I hadn't read the damn thing out loud either, which was my bad. So I get halfway through it and then she's using ampersands and shit in the lines. I'm like, how can I can't even throw me a bone here, kid. But I know I've seen her read that thing on the web. I've never seen her in person, but and I loved it. So if I can dig that up, I will. But yeah, thank you for that.
I
That's great.
also wanted to say at some point, if you were to compile some of them, I mean, I know whatever copyright, but just throwing that out there because
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
very interesting. Select.
You went on mute, but yeah, I get it. That's awesome, Sasha. I do think that there's a. I mean, look, when if you have me over to your house, I'm going to be looking at the books you have. I'm going to be looking around because that's just to me the most fun thing in the world to look at what books people have in their house, and it's so delightful usually. And so, yeah, picking poems for people is, I mean, what is it? It's the grown-ups version of the mixtape, right? It's a little bit like that. It's got that vibe of like, hey, I picked this for you, you know? And, this is the last thing I'll say. We're almost out of time, but apparently, so my wife, when we go on walks, she's almost always, and since I've known her, she's been the one who notices wildlife. She'll be like, ooh, a hawk, or ooh, there's a coyote. And I also heard that through our life as keeping chickens for the past 10 years, um, that rooster, if you have a rooster in the flock, they will do what's called tidbitting. And they'll go over and find some food and they won't eat it all. They'll eat a little bit of it and they'll make a noise and they'll bring the hens over. It's called tidbitting. And that's where you, as a rooster, show other people in your flock, hey, there's some stuff here. And that pattern to me is really, really cool. It's curating, right? It's curating for the animal kingdom, but a lot of what I notice is when people tidbit for me, when people point out something that's beautiful or something valuable or something, and it could be danger. Hey, watch out. But it also could be probably, hey, you should check this out because it might be cool for you. It might be something that contributes to your life or your this moment's experience. And to me, that's part of what picking poems out is. It's like it's so fun to think of what people are gonna how people are gonna respond to that. And sometimes, I pick them in a hurry, in case you haven't noticed, and sometimes I take a long time and pick them. But it's a real honor and a privilege to be able to pick them for you guys. So thank you so much for showing up. Enjoy your time with the robot this week. Who knows? Maybe electricity will stop flowing at some point for some period of time, and we won't have our giant robot to beat up on or blame for stuff. So anyway, love you guys. Have a great week, and I'll see you next time.
Bye, Manny. Bye,
Bye.
everybody.
Thanks.